Happy New Year, and this is sportsbookreview.com, and what a year ahead we've got in all sports across the world. We're going to go first of all to the 2020 ATP Cup. It's down under. It's going to be in Sydney, Perth and Brisbane. It's tennis. What a year the boys had last year. 2019 was a breakout year for some of the men and some of the women. But these boys told us before it happened, which is always nice because we can all pick the winners after the event. If you haven't seen us before, we were on Odds Market. We're now over on SBR, and this will be your home. If you love tennis, then just think SBR. We have you covered throughout the next 12 months and giving you the pointers and hopefully putting some cash in your pocket. If you haven't seen the boys before, then we'll be joined by Snize and James. Snize has the best way to put it is good hair. James, not so good. Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing great, thank you. Happy New Year. Blessed to be back and here with SBR now. So happy to be here, and I'm ready to rock for the 2020 tennis season.
So as you can see, that is Snize. Now let's have a look at James. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. I feel a bit hurt now, Flash, but you know, I'm sure you can't say a lot about hair, so I can't take it too personally.
No, don't take anything personally, but you have mirrors in your house and you know the truth hurts. James, I'm going to stay with you. Tell me about this format, 2020 ATP Cup Futures. We've just had Christmas and the New Year, and bang, we're straight into the action.
Yes, indeed. So ATP Cup has kind of effectively replaced the Hopman Cup as a warm-up for the Australian Open. So there's a few notable things about it. It is effectively a similar format to the Davis Cup in that you have nations competing against each other. You initially have a round-robin format, and then you get to the quarters, semis, and then eventually the final. It'll be played across 3 different cities, Brisbane, Sydney, and Perth. And yeah, effectively, it's winner takes all at the end, and at the beginning, we've got it broken down into different groups.
Snize, when you look at some of these teams, are the big guns going to be representing their countries?
A bit of yes and a bit of no, actually. It depends. It varies from country to country. But if we look at some of the favorites for this event, when it comes to the betting odds, Spain are the favorites. They retain their entire Davis Cup team apart from Marcel Granollers, so they are the favorites. We have Russia, who lose Andrei Rublev. That's a huge loss for them, but they bring Karen Khachanov and Daniil Medvedev, so big guns there. And then we have Australia with Nick Kyrgios being back. So most of the teams are bringing their biggest players. We do have some notable absentees though, like Italy's Matteo Berrettini, among a few others.
James, when you're looking at these sides here, what is the format? Is it 2 singles and a doubles? Is it teams of 3?
Yeah. So effectively, it's basically the same as the Davis Cup in that sense. I think there's a couple of format changes that I can't quite remember. I think they play a final set tiebreak to 10 in the third rubber rather than doing a final set normal set. But beyond that, I think it's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Okay, Snize, how motivated are these players going to be when the first major, the Australian Open, is only 17 days away if you're in the Western Hemisphere, but the Southern one, it's obviously January 20, it kicks off the first major of the year.
Well, they should be a lot more motivated for this one than they usually are, because not only is the format similar to the Davis Cup and you still compete for national glory, but there's a staggering $15 million in prize money up for grabs now, and players can also earn 750 points to count towards their ranking if they're playing singles, and up to 250 points for doubles. So plenty of incentive to be really, really fired up for this one.
James, would you say that the points are probably more motivating than the money?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think it really depends on the player. As Snize says, there's a lot of money up for grabs. I think unlike something like the Hopman Cup, which didn't have points, clearly getting both the money and the points is going to be a lot more motivating than just one of them. But I imagine I've always felt like any player in the top 50, top 30, they're probably going to be at that point very comfortable financially. Not that that won't motivate them, but possibly for them more the points. Whereas any players that can really take a pop at it, who are not in the top 100, say, or maybe between 50 and 100, that's a lot of money for them. So.
Yeah, the big thing that I always think about tennis players that when they get to that elite top 20, top 30, it's professional pride. And there's just a competitiveness that's actually built into them. They become like machines. A win is just, the W is more important than the points. I mean, the points is more important than the money, because if you win, the money will obviously just follow. Snize, let me open up with you. Why don't you give me your selections for the futures? Who's going to win this tournament and where's the value lie?
All right, so for this event, as I alluded to earlier, the betting favorite is Spain, and they're followed by Russia, and they're also followed by Serbia. And I've gone ahead and gone with the favorite, Spain to win outright at plus 275 at Bet Online. And why? Because from a future standpoint, I think they're the clear option here. Most countries are weakened. They're missing a couple of players that they've had at the Davis Cup. Spain won the Davis Cup, and they retain almost the entire lineup. Only absentee is Marcel Granollers in the doubles, but Spain have an absolutely fantastic squad with them to this tournament. They have Rafael Nadal, world number 1. They have Roberto Bautista Agut, world number 10. Pablo Carreño Busta, also a top-tier player. Albert Ramos Vignolas and Feliciano Lopez on the doubles. So a fantastic squad, and they've also been given a fairly straightforward group. They'll be in Group B with Georgia, Spain without Nishikori, and Uruguay. So they should prevail there pretty easily. And then I wouldn't want to be against them with any other team. So Spain's win outright there.
Okay, and you've got a couple to win their groups. I think you've gone to Group D and Group F.
Indeed. So looking at Group D, it consists of Italy, it consists of Norway, it consists of Russia, and the United States. And so I also mentioned this earlier, but Italy are missing world number 8 Matteo Berrettini, which is a huge factor for them. That weakens their team significantly. They'll have to sub him in with Stefano Travaglia, and that is a very, very big drop-off in performance there. Norway, not really sure how they got in even. They have a really, really weak team. Casper Ruud is barely in the top 50, and he's their number 1 player, so they shouldn't have anything to do with this group. Russia are missing Rublev, but Medvedev and Khachanov, both top 10 players, and they will be able to carry this team very far. The United States have underwhelmed for quite some time now in Davis Cup and team competitions since they won it all the way back in 2007. So I think that Russia is the standout prize here to win the group, and I got that at minus 110 with Bovada. Over in Group F, the last group, the host nation of Australia are the betting favorites as plus 135 with Bovada, but Germany aren't far behind at plus 275. And Germany are among the only countries in the tournament that are bringing an elite doubles pairing. They have Kevin Krawietz and Andreas Mies, one of the best doubles pairings in the world. And with most of the matchups being pretty even, the doubles rubber will be decisive. So Germany are picked ahead there to win the group.
Okay, James, you've just listened to Snize. I know that sometimes you're on the same page, but James, I like the fact that you find us double digits value. Tell me where you've gone with the futures. Right.
So the first thing is I do agree with Snize on at least half of this. I agree with Snize about Spain. I'm not convinced that it's huge value, but it is hard to look past them. I think Rafa showed excellent improvements on the quicker surface last year. You know, he went a whole year pretty much injury-free. That's a big deal for him. And the squad has more depth than anyone else, comfortably. So they're strong in all areas. It is pretty hard to see them losing it unless one of them plays quite poorly or something like that. Under normal conditions, I mean, they cruised through the Davis Cup overall. They had a couple of close calls with GB, but beyond that, they pretty much cruise through that. So I would probably expect that to be the same. But in terms of longer price selections, I think my approach to this tournament has been to look at the other side of the draw to Spain. Look at people who are not likely to meet Spain until the final, and take each way selections on that. I think a lot of it depends on the form of players. So that, to me, it makes it kind of difficult to pick the longer price selections because there's a lot of guesswork here. So we have, for example, in Germany, Zverev wasn't great last year, but he started to turn the corner towards the end of the year, and he could well play very well this week, and that would be a massive plus for Germany. They could go very well. For Canada, they've got Auger Aliassime, who's back after injury, and again, same logic. He can be excellent on his day. He could really carry Canada to do very well, but I don't really want to bank on form that I'm not sure about. So there's also Group D, which includes Russia, Italy, and USA. And I think for me, that's a bit of a lottery group, so I'm happy staying away from that. So there are a lot of things that I'm happy avoiding because I'm not that sure about them. And what I ended up with was Croatia and France for a couple of reasons. The main one being that they both have very balanced teams and they're well positioned. So as long as they turn up and play well together, they have a very good chance of upsetting the players in their group. So with France, you have France, Chile, Serbia, and South Africa. And I would be quite surprised to see Chile or South Africa do anything really in that group. So it feels like it's between France and Serbia. So when you take Djokovic is really the one leading Serbia. He's not tended to do that well in these team events. He probably will be taking this tournament seriously, but it is a warm-up event for him. He's really shown all of his best form in the majors for the past 12 months, if not longer. So I'm happy swerving Serbia and hoping that France upset that group. If they do, they would avoid Spain until the finals, and pretty much their route should see them get through to the finals if they're able to win the group. So I think longer than Serbia, they're 12. I think Serbia were 8. So plus 1100 and plus 700. I think in both those cases, I don't see why Serbia would be shorter, really. So I'm happy taking a chance on Spain each way. And then with Croatia, so they're in Group E.
They are
with Argentina. Yeah, Argentina, Poland, and Austria. And so this is a little bit of a trickier group in a way with Austria, team heading Austria, who improved really well last year. But it's a bit of a one-man group. There's not a lot of depth to Austria. And then Argentina and Poland, similar ideas. I mean, Poland especially is really just relying on Hurkacz, and I wouldn't expect them to go very far. Argentina has two very good players in Pear and Schwartzman, but it's a lot to ask from just two players. You need more depth in the squad, really. And so with Croatia, the big problem we have with them is the form. I mean, Cilic and Coric have both not been amazing for the past 12 months or so, but they are quite streaky players, and they're the kind of players who have done well in this team format in the past. They've done well at the Davis Cup. So you can see if they do have a streak of form and the quick conditions should suit, then they could do very well. They have a very balanced team, very good doubles pair. So it would surprise me if they didn't compete on decent form. And again, they're well positioned. They won't meet Spain until the finals. So they're two different chances in the opposite half to Spain to give you some each way payout.
No, like that. Well, there's obviously James, there's Snize, there's myself who's Flash, and we've got a fourth member of our team, and that's Rafa. Rafa, if it's possible, can you just give me a recap, a visual recap on what the boys have done? And I've put both the prices up there. It's the 2020 ATP Cup futures. Now, Spain at 4 is it's just for the European lines, and plus 300 is the US lines. Russia to win Group D at 1.9 or minus 110, and Germany to win Group F at 275, which is plus 175. Now remember what James said. France at 12 plus 1100. They're on the opposite side to Spain. And Croatia at 17. That's plus 1600. Do them each way. They get to the final. You are going to be well in the money. Now, let's move on to day one. I'm going to come back to you, Snize. And you're going to give me a couple of bets that you're going to get involved in.
Indeed. So the first match that I've looked at here is from day one, and it is between Jan Lennard Struff and Nicolas Kyrgios. So this is a matchup between two big men. John Leonard Struff stands at 6'5" tall, and Kyrgios 6'3". Both possess big serves as a result. Kyrgios' delivery is top 5 in the game when it's on, in my opinion. And despite him being out of action for months with injury, it really doesn't take much of him to get back into that groove and hold serve. The German has held serve at an 84% clip over the last year on hardcourt, and the Aussie at an 89.1% rate. Neither return all of that well. They're posting sub 18% numbers when it comes to the breaks. So I'm expecting a serve-orientated match here. These players faced last year, and even on the slowest surface, clay, they hit 23 games in a match. Struff actually won 7-6, 6-4. And I would expect a similarly tight match here today. And thus my pick here is the over, and I got it at -109 bet online over 23.5 games.
Okay, and your next bet?
Next, we go over to day 2, so not tonight, but
are you not getting involved with Medvedev?
Well, I do have Medvedev. I'm not sure about the prices here now. I got it at -147.
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Not sure what it is at now, but I bet him to win 2-0 versus Fabio Fognini. Medvedev has just been a monster as of late. This last surge over the summer of 2019 is unheard of. He won or went to the finals in 6 consecutive tournaments and really cemented himself as one of the best players outside of the big 3. Fabio Fognini had a great year, but he is getting older. He's prone to losing focus, and he isn't all that great in these team events. Medvedev holds a pretty dominant head-to-head lead over Fognini, and he's won both of these last 2 events in straight sets. He actually demolished him recently at an exhibition, 6-2, 6-2. So I would expect Medvedev to win this 2-0 again here.
Yeah, I mean, looks great value. Oh, it is -147, but 2-0 looks very much on the cards. James, give me a couple for day 1, please.
Okay, cool. So the first one that I've gone for is the 2-1 to Goffin against Albot. There's a few things going into this bet. The first thing, the most obvious thing to point out, is they've played 3 times and it's landed every time. So there's an obvious precedent for it. They're 2 players who play a similar style. They're basically baseline grinders, aggressive baseliners. Goffin's clearly the better one at it. He's the higher ranked player. He's more consistent generally. He's got a higher peak, etc. He's a bit taller, so he's got a bit more power behind him. But he has been very inconsistent over the past sort of 12 months. He picked up quite a bad injury, as I'm sure you guys will remember, fairly recently. And I mean, he's recovered from it now, but he certainly hasn't looked the same player to me since coming back. And that's made him a lot easier to bet against overall. I'm not convinced that betting directly against him in this situation is ideal. Albot is not a bad candidate as an underdog to bet on, but this is not the style that he's best against. He's going to push Goffin, but Goffin is better at this game and should play himself into form here, especially given that we tend to find these early season events are quite favorite heavy. They're usually better for the favorites than most events across the year, which makes sense. The players are fresh. They want to get some practice in ahead of the Australian Open. The general stats, if you look at the respective odds ranges, they are pretty good for the 2-1 bets in general. Albot tends to lose 2-1 a lot when he's this kind of priced underdog, and Goffin, recently at least, has been winning 2-1 a lot in that price range. And we can get 4.2 in European odds, so that's plus 320 in US odds. And I think that's definitely worth a bet. So the second match that I'm looking at is between Khachanov and Travaya. And so this is a match very different, kind of opposite style to the previous match. They're both big hitters, heavy hitters, power players. And they both like to kind of like paint the lines a little bit. They probably go for a bit too much in general. That often leads to a lot of tight matches because they kind of rely on keeping their serve in the game, keeping the flow going, and making the other player sort of pressuring them out of the game, eventually hitting them off the court. And if you look at the two of them, you can actually get Travaya is very long. He's almost plus 500 on the money line. And for me, that's probably a bet, but I'm keener to go with 3 sets in this match because I think it's very likely to be a tight match. Again, I at least sense that Khachanov will come to this playing at least better than he did for most of last year. I think he'll be fresher. He'll be really wanting to have a better year this year, a rebound year, because he wasn't amazing in 2019. But I don't expect him to be clinical at all. So I think he will get pushed here. Travaia is excellent generally as an underdog. He's played 12 matches when he's been priced over 3, and he's actually won 6 of them for an 80% return. And more importantly, he's only lost in straight sets in 1 of his last 10. So he's always put up a good fight. Khachanov, by contrast, he's won 2-love in just 2 of his 13 matches priced in this price bracket, so 1.2 to 1.5 in 2019. So that's a very, very easy bet in my mind. From a stats perspective, it looks very clear to me that this is the kind of match that will be quite tight and serve-oriented.
With the Goffin-Albert game, and you went for 2-1 for Goffin, was you not tempted, or why did you not go with the over games? Was the number too big? It's that sense of, I think, obviously what I'm looking for is value. I think the over games might be value there, but the problem I have is the style of the 2 players. When you have very return-orientated players, I don't think tie breaks are as likely as they would be with other players. So a lot of the value from the over bet comes from 7-6, 6-4 type scorelines, whereas here I wouldn't be surprised if each player was quite dominant, or at least moderately dominant in different sets. Yeah, okay, that makes total sense, because obviously that's no good if the number's in its mid-20s and you get one that wins one of the games 6-1, but we still go for free sets. Rafa, can you give me a recap, please, on the day 1 bets? So we've got Struff and Kyrgios over 23.5 games at 1.91, which is obviously minus 109. Medvedev to win 2-0 at 1.68, which is minus 147, and Khachanov versus Travaia at 3 sets at 3.5, which is plus 250, and Goffin to win 2-1 against Albert at 5.2, which is plus 420, and not to be sniffed at. That's a massive price for Goffin to win 2-1. Snize, I'm going to come back to you for day 2. You going with 2 bets in the same match?
Yeah, so for this day, day 2 here, we have a match that I've looked at, and it's Guido Pella versus Kamil Majdzak. It's very difficult last name to pronounce there, so I'm just going to stick to Kamil. And I think the wrong man is favored here. Guido Pella has improved a lot on faster surfaces, but at the end of the day, he's still a clay court player primarily, and he needs time on the ball. Even in 2019, a year which he improved on other surfaces, he went 410 for an ROI of minus 42.1% against the top 100 on hard court, and he's also lost 4 straight with those same metrics. Kamil Majdzak is a young, talented Pole on the rise. He sits right around the top 100 mark at 101, and he was even in the top 100, ranked 83 last year. He's a lot more comfortable on quick hard court than Pella is, and he has a 3% better hold break ratio than his opponent. He also had a little mini run at the US Open in 2019. He beat 2 clay courters in a row in Nicolas Jarry and Pablo Cuevas as the betting underdog, and I think we're in for a repeat of that in this occasion, even though Pella is a high quality opponent. So I think that he will both cover the plus 2.5, which I got at minus 101 at Bet Online, and I also think he has a great shot to win this outright, which I also got at plus 158 at Bet Online.
So how are you pronouncing his first name?
Kamil.
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 Spell it.
Kamil. Kamil.
Kamil. Okay, it's just it's easy because when I get Rafa to give me the roundup of the second day's bets, I'm going to go for Kamil rather than that thing I typed up earlier. So Rafa, give me them day 2 bets, please. So there we have day 2. It's Carmel plus 2.5 at 200, which is plus 100, and Carmel on the money line at 275, plus 175. Remember what Snize said? He thinks that the books have got this totally wrong, and they are round the wrong way. Gentlemen, I'm loving this, and I think that the Davis Cup winners are going to prevail again. I think that it's great value, plus 300 for a team that you know are almost certainly going to be there or thereabouts at the end. I've got a bit of homework for the pair of you that we're going to have a little look at very, very soon. Obviously, we've got Australia, then Roland Garros, then Wimbledon, and then we're off to New York for the men's and the women's majors. So if you can do some homework and pick me a couple, maybe 3 to follow in each of them events, we'll look forward to doing a futures event for just the majors. But until then, as my Spanish is getting a little bit better, mi gana español. My winner is Spain. Snize, James, until next time, you take care.
Thanks a lot, Flash.
See you next time. Cheers.
No worries, and
Cheers.
Happy New Year to you both. And let's hope you have a better year than 2019, because 2019 was just completely out of this world. As I said to you before, these two boys, they give you unrivaled value, winners from nowhere, and players you've never heard of turning up on the last day of the tournament and lifting the trophy at healthier odds. So make sure you follow us on sbr.com. We're your home for all your tennis this year. 2020 is going to be your home of the tennis. Take care.